1 Samuel chapter 20. Then David fled from Naioth at Ramah, came before Jonathan and said, "What have I done? What is my crime? And what is my sin against your father, that he should be seeking my life?" "Never," he said to him, "you will not die. Behold, my father does nothing great or small without disclosing it to me. So why should my father hide this matter from me? It cannot be." Then David swore again, saying, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes. So he must have thought, let's not let Jonathan know about this, else he will be grieved. But truly as Adonai lives, and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me and death." Then Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you say, I will do for you." So David said to Jonathan, "Look, tomorrow is the new moon, when I am supposed to sit down with the king to eat. Instead, let me go hide myself in the countryside until the third evening. If your father misses me at all, then say, 'David earnestly asked my permission to run to Bethlehem, his town, for it is the annual sacrifice there for the whole family.' If he says thus, very well, then your servant is safe. But if he becomes very angry, then know that he is determined to harm me. Therefore, deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of Adonai with you. But if there is any iniquity in me, then kill myself. Then kill me yourself. Why should you bring me to your father?" Jonathan replied, "Far be it from you, for if I know for sure that my father has determined evil to come on you, then wouldn't I tell you about it?" Then David asked Jonathan, "Who will tell me if your father answers you harshly?" Jonathan said to David, "Come, let's go out to the field." So they both went out to the field. Then Jonathan said to David, "By Adonai, God of Israel, I will sound out my father about this time tomorrow or the day after. Look, if it is good toward David, wouldn't I then send word to you and disclose it to you? May Adonai do so to Jonathan, and even worse should my father intend to do evil if I don't disclose it to you and send you away, that you may go in shalom. So may Adonai be with you as he has been with my father. Now if I am still alive, wouldn't you show me the loyal love of Adonai so I wouldn't die? Yet also don't cut off your loyal love from my household forever. Now even when Adonai cuts off all of David's enemies from the face of the earth." So Jonathan cut a covenant with the house of David. So may Adonai requite David's enemies. Jonathan made David swear again because of the love he had for him, for he loved him as he loved himself. Then Jonathan said to him, "Tomorrow is the new moon. You will be missed because your seat will be empty. On the third day, you must go down quickly and come to the place where you hid as you did on that day, and remain close to the stone Ezel. I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I were shooting at a target. Now look, I will send a lad saying, 'Go, find the arrows.' If I specifically say to the lad, 'See, the arrows are on this side of you getting them,' then come, for it is safe for you and no danger, as Adonai lives. But if I say to the boy, 'Look, the arrows are beyond you,' then go your way, for Adonai has released you. But as for the matter which I and you have spoken about, behold, Adonai is between me and you forever." So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon came, the king sat down to eat a meal. So the king sat on his seat, as usual, the seat by the wall. Jonathan stood up, and Abner sat down to Shaul's side, but David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Shaul said nothing that day, for he thought it must be an accident. He must be ceremonially unclean. Yes, that's it, he's unclean. Yet it came to pass on the day following the new moon, the second day, that David's place was still empty. So Shaul asked his son Jonathan, "Why didn't Jesse's son come to the meal yesterday or today?" Jonathan answered Shaul, "David earnestly asked to leave of me to go to Bethlehem, as he said, please let me go, for we are going to have a family feast in the town, and my brother has commanded me. So now if I have found favor in your eyes, let me go, please, to see my brothers. That's why he hasn't come to the king's table. Then Shaul's rage blazed against Jonathan, and he said to him, you son of a perverse, rebellious woman, don't I know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on earth, neither you nor your kingship will be secure. Now send word and bring him to me, for he is a son of death. But Jonathan answered his father Shaul, why should he be put to death? What has he done? Then Shaul hurled his spear at him to strike him down. So Jonathan knew that his father was determined to put David to death. So Jonathan rose up from the table in fierce anger and did not eat food the second day of the new month, for he was grieved over David, because his father had dishonored him. It came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out to the field at the time appointed with David, and a little lad was with him. He said to his lad, run, find now the arrows that I am about to shoot. Now as the lad was running, he shot an arrow past him. When the lad reached the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried out after the lad and said, isn't the arrow beyond you? Then Jonathan called out after the lad, quick, hurry, don't stand there. So Jonathan's lad picked up the arrow and came to his master. But the lad knew nothing, only Jonathan and David knew the arrangement. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to his lad and said to him, go, take them back to the town. As soon as the lad was gone, David emerged from the south side and fell on his face to the ground and bowed down 3 times. Then they kissed each other and wept together, though David wept more. Then Jonathan said to David, go in the shalom that we both have sworn to each other in the name of Adonai, saying, may Adonai be between me and you, and between my offspring and your offspring forever. Chapter 21. Then David got up and left, while Jonathan returned to the town. David went to Nob to Ahimelech the Kohen. Ahimelech was afraid to meet David, so he said to him, why are you alone and no one with you? David said to Ahimelech the Kohen, the king has commissioned me with a matter and told me, let no one know anything about the mission on which I am sending you or with what I am commissioned you. So I have directed the young men to such and such a place. So now what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever can be found. The Kohen answered David, saying, there is no common bread on hand, but there is consecrated bread, so long as the young men have kept themselves from women. Of course, women have been kept from us, as on previous campaigns. David answered the Kohen, so the young men's vessels were holy. Though it was an ordinary mission, how much more so will their vessels be holy today? So the Kohen gave him consecrated bread, for there was no bread but the bread of the presence, which was taken out from the presence of Adonai in order to replace it with hot bread on the day it was taken away. Now one of Shaul's servants was there that day, detained before Adonai. His name was Doeg, the Edomite, chief of Shaul's shepherds. Then David said to Ahimelech, isn't there a spear or sword on hand? For I did not take my sword or my weapons with me, because the king's mission was urgent. The Kohen said, the sword of Goliath, the Philistines, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, it's here, wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you want to take it for yourself, take it, for there's nothing else here. There's nothing like it, David said. Give it to me. Then David got up and fled that day from Shaul and went to Achish, son of Gath, king of Gath. But Achish's courtiers said to him, isn't this David, king of the land? Isn't he the one they sing about in their dances, saying, Shaul has slain his thousands and David his 10,000s? David took these words to heart, and he became so afraid of King Achish of Gath that he changed his demeanor before them and acted like a madman while in their hands, scribbling on the doors of the gate and letting his saliva run down to his beard. Then Achish said to his courtiers, "Look, you can see the man is insane. Why did you bring him to me? Do I have a shortage of crazy people that you've brought this fellow to go crazy on me? Is this one going to come into my house?" Chapter 22. So David walked from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and all his father's house heard about it, they went down there to him. Anyone who was in distress, anyone in debt, and anyone embittered rallied around him, and he became their leader. There were about 400 men with him. Then David left from there to Mizpah and Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, "Please let my father and my mother come and stay with you until I know that God will do for me." Then he brought them to the king of Moab, and they stayed with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. But the prophet God said to David, "Do not stay in the stronghold. Depart and go to the land of Judah." So David left and went to the forest of Hereth. Then Shaul heard that David and the men with him were located. Shaul was in Gibeah, sitting under the tamarisk tree on the height, spear in his hand, and all his courtiers were attending him. Shaul said to his courtiers, saying about him, "Listen now, Benjamites. Will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards? Will he make all of you captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? Yet all of you have conspired against me, and there was nobody disclosing to me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is sorry for me or discloses to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in ambush, as is the case today." Then Doeg, the Edomite, who was standing among Shaul's courtiers, answered and said, "I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech son of Ahitub, and he inquired of Adonai for him, gave him provisions, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine." Then the king sent word to summon the Kohen Ahimelech son of Ahitub and all the Kohanim of his father's house who were in Nob. So they all came to the king. "Listen now, son of Ahitub." Shaul said, "Here I am, my lord," he said. Then Shaul said to him, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, by giving him bread and a sword, and by inquiring of God for him, that he should rise against me by lying in ambush, as is the case today?" Then Ahimelech answered the king, saying, "Who among all your servants is as truest as David, the king's son-in-law, a captain of the royal guard and honored in your house? Just today I began to inquire of God for him. Far be it from the king to accuse his servant or to anyone of my father's house, for your servant knows nothing of all this, whether little or much." But the king said, "You will surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." Then the king ordered the guards attending him, "Turn around and kill the Kohanim of Adonai, for they are in cahoots with David." For they knew that he was running away, but did not inform me. But the servants of the king were not willing to raise their hand to assault the Kohanim of Adonai. So the king said to Doeg, "You turn around and kill the Kohanim." So Doeg the Edomite turned and fell upon the Kohanim, and on that day killed 85 men who were the linen ephod. Nob, the town of the Kohanim, he struck with the edge of the sword, men and women, children and infants, oxen, asses, and sheep with the edge of the sword. Yet one of the sons of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled to David. Abiathar told David that Shaul had slain Adonai's Kohanim. Then David said to Abiathar, "I knew on that day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would surely tell Shaul, 'I have brought about the death of all the people of your father's house. Stay with me and fear not, for the one who is seeking my life is seeking your life too. But with me you will be safe." Chapter 23. Then they reported to David, saying, "Look, the Philistines are raiding Keilah, and they are plundering the threshing floors." So David inquired of Adonai, saying, "Shall I go and attack those Philistines?" Adonai said to David, "Go attack the Philistines and deliver Keilah." But David's fellow men said to him, "Look, we're afraid here in Judah. How much more so if we go to Keilah against the Philistine forces?" Once again David inquired of Adonai, and Adonai answered him, saying, "Arise, go to Keilah, for I am going to deliver the Philistines into your hand." So David and his fellow men went to Keilah and fought against the Philistines, drove off their livestock, and inflicted a great slaughter on them. Thus David rescued the inhabitants of Keilah. It came about when Abiathar son of Ahimelech fled to David at Keilah. He came down with an ephod in his hand. Now when Shaul was told that David had gone to Keilah, Shaul said, "God has delivered him into my hand, for he shut himself in by entering a town with barred gates." So Shaul summoned all the troops for battle to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his fellow men. Now David knew that Shaul was plotting evil against him, so he said to Abiathar the Kohen, "Bring the ephod." And then David said, "Adonai, God of Israel, your servant has heard for certain that Shaul intends to come to Keilah to destroy the town because of me. Will the men of Keilah surrender me into his hand? Will Shaul come down as your servant has heard? Adonai, God of Israel, I pray, tell your servant he will come down." Adonai said. Then David asked, "Will the men of Keilah surrender me and my fellow men into the hand of Shaul?" "They will surrender," Adonai said. Then David and his fellow men, about 600, got up and left Keilah and went wherever they could go. When Shaul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, he stopped the pursuit. So David stayed in the strongholds of the wilderness, remaining in the hill country in the wilderness of Ziph. Shaul searched for him every day, but God did not give him into his hand. By now, David was aware that Shaul would come out to seek his life while David was in the wilderness of Ziph at Choresh. Then Shaul's son Jonathan arose and went to David at Choresh and strengthened him in God. "Don't be afraid," he said to him, "because my father Shaul will never find you. You will be king over Israel, and I will be second to you. Even my father Shaul recognizes that." Again they cut a covenant before Adonai. David remained at Choresh, but Jonathan went home. Then some of the Ziphites went up to Shaul in Gibeah, saying, "Isn't David hiding with us in the stronghold at Choresh, in the hill of Hakilah, which is south of Jeshimon? Now therefore, O king, come down. Whenever it is a desire of your soul to come down, our part will be to deliver him into the king's hand." May you be blessed of Adonai," Shaul said, "for you have taken pity on me. Go now, make more sure, investigate and scout out his place where he usually goes, and who has seen him there. For I have been told that he is very cunning. Look around and see in which of all the hiding places he has been hiding, and return to me with certainty, and I will go with you. If he is in the area, I will search him out among all the clans of Judah." Then they got up and went to Ziph ahead of Shaul. But David and his men were then in the wilderness of Maon in the Arabah to the south of Jeshimon. So when Shaul and his men began the search, David was informed. Then he went down to the rocky area and stayed in the wilderness of Maon. On hearing this, Shaul pursued David in the wilderness of Maon. Then while Shaul was advancing on one side of the mountain, David and his men were on the other side of the mountain. David was hurrying to elude Shaul. Meanwhile, Shaul and his men were closing in on David and his men to seize them. But a messenger came to Shaul, saying, "Hurry and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land." So Shaul had to return from chasing after David and go to engage the Philistines. Therefore they called the place the Rock of Separation. From there David went up and stayed in the strongholds of En-Gedi.